I don't know if we're live. I don't know if we're live. Does anybody know if we're live streaming?
It
Did I?
says that we are
Yeah,
being
I'm not
streamed.
getting it yet.
I
I'm not getting it. I keep refreshing and it's not coming up yet, but I've got a 30-second delay.
let's see if I hit the right button here. It says we're live streaming. We are live streaming. And we just
Yes.
now started. Hello, everybody. It's good to have you with us tonight. And we're looking forward to whatever happens tonight happens. And it certainly is good to have everybody in the Zoom room tonight. It is great to have everybody listening to Power of Faith Radio tonight. We appreciate you coming this way. And if you have any questions, if you would like to join us here in the Zoom room, you can just pop on over to our Facebook page, which is A Simple Walk. And there you can find all the links on how you can watch us on YouTube and how you can just join the group while you're there. And then just go on over to YouTube while you're there. Subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And you can also come into the Zoom room. Did I get all that out right?
I think you did.
I would like to tell about our email address. Can I tell about our email address?
Go tell about the email address.
You can go over to email. Just go to Gmail. No. outreachnoah@gmail.com. Send us a question and we'll be glad to try to answer it or just say howdy. That's what terminology we use here is howdy. I was talking to somebody today and I said howdy and they said, what? And of course they were from out west and they didn't know what howdy meant. Howdy does mean
How do you get past Texas and not know what howdy is? Or Oklahoma?
I think they flew over.
Oh, they flew over. Okay.
Go ahead, Terry. Greet everybody in the Zoom room tonight.
Oh, greetings, everyone, and thank you again for joining us at our Outreach Noah Wednesday night class. We have a special treat tonight. Scotty's going to be teaching us on the subject of cultivating compassion, and something I think he's very well dressed in, overflows with, and he's Mr. Sadaka. So
they say a weak minister needs a strong introduction. So keep going.
Keep going. All right. So anyhow, we are looking forward to hearing from Scotty tonight on this subject. We've actually talked several times over the last couple of years. Hey, Scotty, when are you going to talk to us about compassion and Sadaka? So tonight's the night, guys, if y'all been waiting. But here in the Zoom room, of course, Mr. Scotty's down. He is flying the ship from the engine room tonight. And so I think he'll be able to manhandle that and keep us on track. Of course, then we got Ronald and Veronica. Amuela's with us tonight, and glad to see you tonight, Amuela.
Yeah.
And Bob and Thomas, we are glad to see you and seeing that you are actually doing really good. It sounds like you've decided to take a few weeks off for, a little roller coaster ride there. And we are glad you got off the roller coaster. Glad you're back. And then we've got Scotty's better half is here tonight, Miss Annie.
Yes.
She's going to keep him lined up for us there. So anyhow, we're looking forward to his teaching tonight, what he's going to be bringing to us and everything. And like Scotty said, if anyone wants to come into the Zoom room, head over to A Simple Walk. Scotty's got the links there. Come on in. You don't have to have your camera on, but you're welcome to join us at any time. And just reiterate, Scotty, if you have any questions, comments, hellos, goodbyes, whatever you want to do. Hopefully not no goodbye, yeah. but you got to kind of throw that in there as well. But you can go to outreachnoah@gmail.com. That's our communication link there, and or you can, Scotty and I's Facebook groups are public, and outreach, or not outreach, no, but Simple Walk is public. So you can actually, through those 3 Facebook avenues, you can also get a hold of us as well if you need to. Scotty, you about ready?
I'm ready for our Sadaka time.
All righty.
We'll go from there. I just noticed as Thomas got up and walked away, he gets smaller the further away he gets. Then he did. So, all right. We want to thank everybody who participated in this week's Sadaka time. And we appreciate you sending us names. Now, if you sent me a name and I just happen not to get it in, please say something, especially you here in the Zoom room. You know how sometimes I'll look at things and I'll say, now, who was that? Here a while back, I missed a whole line. There was 3 names on this one line. I missed the whole line. Didn't realize it till after everything was over with. And I couldn't call everybody and say, come back. So I'm going to try my best to get all these names in tonight. And again, we appreciate everybody who has participated and sent us names. As always, we give honor and tzedakah for our main teacher, Pesach, and his wife, Shira Sherbo, giving that tzedakah tonight. Also, D. Hall, giving tzedakah for D. Hall tonight. I've still got Jeremy Kibbe on our tzedakah list tonight. Anybody talk to Jeremy? Anybody here lately? Anybody talk to Jeremy? Okay, but we've got him on our tzedakah list. Also, Troy Milligan and family. We've got them on our tzedakah list tonight. Nadine Akins is on our tzedakah list tonight. Things are coming together for Nadine, and I'm just real proud. I guess you are too, aren't you, Thomas? Real proud of Danielle's progress. So she got an attorney to work on her disability, and that's all going good. And so I talked to her today, and she said just everything is just going so good. And I don't know if I told you, but last week we had to take her to get signed up on some things, and she went down the steps and up the steps by herself, up and down a flight of steps by herself. She sat all the way through it, but she said, I want to do it. And so she done a great job. Now, she was tired when we got her back home, and she climbed that flight of stairs. And when she got in the house, she said, y'all can do, I'm just going to have to lay down. I'm tired. So, but anyway, she's doing great. She's on our tzedakah list tonight. Also, Harleen Hool is on our tzedakah list tonight. Pamela Steffi is on our tzedakah list tonight. We're going to continue to pray for Pamela. Rachel Stewart is still on our tzedakah list tonight. Janice Brandon is on our. Did I get that name right? Did I get that right? Wrong?
Yep.
Okay. Is on our tzedakah list tonight, and I've still got Chrissy Seaton. No, wait a minute. I'd say I jumped 2 lines already. Christina Hall is on our tzedakah list tonight. Has anybody saw any updates on Christina? I know she's going through her medication time. I see pictures every once in a while and haven't checked lately. But anyway, Christina Hall, that's William Hall's wife. Also, William and Tina Lyons is on our tzedakah list tonight. Now here's Chrissy Seaton. I skipped a couple lines. Chrissy Seaton, how is Chrissy doing? Ron, I just felt like keeping her on the tzedakah list for a while.
She's really good at the moment. Very good. And I'll give you a follow-up on Janice.
Yeah.
Janice go back to the hospital after her operation because of severe edema in the left leg, and they were worried about a deep vein thrombosis happening. But a small text from her yesterday, she's back home, she's feeling okay, and she's got the pain under control, but she sounds quite tired. But yeah, it'll take a bit to recover from major surgery like that. So
yeah, we're going to keep her on the tzedakah list for some time. Also, somebody always sends in $1 for Amuella. It's good to see her tonight. Amuella, we've missed you, honey. Yeoman Asher, as we call her. It's good to see you tonight, honey. And then also they send in $1 for Veronica Port. Veronica, they're always blessing you on your travels. And matter of fact, somebody texted me this week, and all they said was, I didn't even know who it was. All they said was, where's Veronica? So, Veronica, what you ought to do is start a little side thing and just take pictures and put them up and say, where's Veronica? And you know, things of that nature. So anyway, they sent in $1 for you, and they also included Thomas Schaus. It's good to see Thomas tonight. He's been going through a little bout of sickness, but here he is tonight. Also, Ronald Dickman and sister. So, Ronald, how are you doing?
I'm very good at the moment, thank you, which is great. And my sister still up and down like a yo-yo with the severe pain, but still no end results of what's going on.
give us her name because I cannot pronounce her last name, so I'll leave it up to you.
Well, it's Diane Benkier, Bankier.
Okay. Well, I've spelled it every which way I think I could. I'm hooked on phonics, and it still doesn't come out right. So that's why I leave it up to you, Ron. All right. And also Wendell and Mary Parsons. We've got them on our Sadaka list tonight. And Fred Lee Rawls, he's on our Sadaka list tonight. And Warwick Marshall is on our Sadaka list tonight. And in our blessed memory, let me get this in here. I can do it. I can do it. On our blessed memory tonight, a lot of these names, if you would write them down, and maybe sometime this week you see a charity box, you can add it to it. And when you do the blessed memory, it actually goes in as a merit for them. You know, they're unable to do any merits at this time, but you can bless them with a merit. And our blessed, well, I can read this. I can read this. Charlotte McDonald. I got it. Charlotte McDonald is in our blessed memory list tonight. Would you help us pray? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For we know you are a God who hears our prayers and our supplications. You are our King. Do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right. All right. Let me get this moved. Terry, talk for a minute. Let me get all this stuff moved here and kindly set up a little bit, if you would.
All right. For those of you that may have joined us just in the last few minutes tonight, we have a very honorable guest speaker tonight. He's going to be bringing us an amazing message on cultivating compassion. So Mr. Sadaka, as many of us call us, is going to enlighten us, inspire us, and send us into the next realm of understanding how to be compassionate with our fellow human being and the importance of tzedakah and anything else that he could throw in there. Is that good? Did I lift you off the floor there, Scott?
You did. You did.
All right.
You know, unfortunately, as discussions as this goes, there's no way to bring out in 45 minutes the depth of something as important as compassion, and especially cultivating compassion. We could have communication, we can have discussion, and as my grandfather used to say, actually my grandfather on my wife's side would say, we could talk for hours and never see the drop in the bucket. It was just so vast. This compassion, this cultivating compassion, and I've actually thought about this many times. I've thought about talking about maybe doing videos on compassion, and it seems that the more I write down, it seems that it doesn't develop into a class; it develops into a personal discussion. I'll find something new out about it, and then I will run into somebody within the next day or so, and that subject will come up, the new thing I found about compassion, and we'll get to discussing that, and it just kindly moves on them, and that's the whole thing about compassion. I often think, how is the best way to describe compassion? What is the best? We can give definitions, and I'm probably going to mess these. Everybody who's in our line of faith now, they always like to hear a Hebrew word. Give me a Hebrew word on compassion. So I'm going to give you one Hebrew, maybe two. The Hebrew word for compassion is, if I'm going to pronounce it right, one of y'all may help me, is rachamim, and which is derived from a root word, rachim, meaning womb. How does womb compare with compassion? This womb suggests nurturing care, love, concern, much like a mother for her child. And this it brings up an interesting part in compassion, because sometimes we will look at somebody and before we realize who and why they're going through what they're going through, if we do not have compassion, the first thing we do is judge. And a lot of times we judge wrongly. I'm guilty of that. I'm just talking for a minute. I'm not going to. I did give you a Hebrew word, right? I did give you my Hebrew word. I wrote down here on the side. But a lot of times, if we lack compassion, we tend to bring out more harsh judgment, and we're gonna get on that as part of our faith now. You know, following the 7 laws, we're going to get on judgment. But let's go on. I just want to give you a simple idea definition, an explanation for compassion. It is the ability to feel another person's pain or their suffering. What does that mean, to feel it? Empathy causes you to feel sorry for somebody. It's not so much you feel it in your spirit, but it's a visual thing. When you see someone who is in an extreme amount of pain, we'll go with that avenue for a minute. When you see somebody going through an extreme amount of pain, you feel sorry for them. But compassion takes it a step farther. It causes you to feel the agony of their pain. I've always described compassion as, now, if any of you got any raise your hand or anything, I'm looking up every once in a while, but you really can't, you know, our job in our walk with the Creator is to help and mend wherever we can and wherever we go. I like that little last part that I felt like putting on there, wherever we go. I'm afraid that we miss many opportunities in a day to just give somebody a smile and then feel what they're going through. This a couple of weeks ago, there was a gentleman was at a gas station. I was getting fuel, and I held the door as I was coming out. I held the door for him to go in, and I just glanced at his face just for a second, a split second, and I saw he'd been crying. You know me. I'm not going to let that go. So I sat down in the car and I thought for a minute, what am I going to do? So I waited for him to come out. He didn't come out. So I went in, back in the station, and I'm not telling you this to give myself any kind of pat on the back or anything. I just want to tell you the things that if we're not careful, we'll miss it. I looked for him and couldn't find him. Finally found him back in the corner, and he was picking up these little cakes. And I walked up to him and I said, which one are you looking for? I get like that too. He said, well, I'm looking for the 25-cent cakes because that's all I got is 25 cents. And I didn't say anything else to him. I thought, okay, now what? So I walked away from him. He did find a 25-cent cake. And when he came up, I was just watching. Boy, it's quiet in this room. I was just watching to see what was going on. And he was counting out change. And the little lady that was behind the counter pushed the change back. I was going to step up, but I want to tell you how this works. the little lady that was behind the counter pushed the change back to him and said, "Go get what you want, and I'll pay for it." The funny thing is, you would think somebody that was told that would go through and pick up the most expensive things he could find. Terry didn't. He went and found the cheap stuff and he brought back an extra cake, and he got him a bottle of water. And by this, now I'm wanting to help. I'm watching. By this time, he comes back up, and there's about 7 people in line ready to buy whatever he brings up. That's compassion. That's what it's all about. Now, did I ask them what religion they were? No. After the gentleman left, everybody was saying, "Man, we should have done more. We should have done more." And I said, you know what? That's what we're here in this life to do, is to help right there. And so I said all that to say this. Don't think you're the only one that's got compassion. There's other people around you. We just have to watch and open our eyes. And I just threw that in. I threw that in. That didn't, as my grandmother used to say, that didn't cost you a dime. So compassion is the ability to feel another person's pain or suffering and have a deep desire to help alleviate the pain or suffering. See, that's when compassion is fulfilled. It's one thing to look at somebody with empathy and feel sorry for them, but it's another to take it into a step where you feel the pain they feel so much you need relief. I know every one of us that's in here, and I'm not going to be able to get all through this tonight, what I've wanting to relate to you, but every one of us has been in positions in our life where we've been going through pain, and we would just say the things like, "Oh, just if I could just have a little relief." Think of this. Our job, our abilities, our passion should be to clothe the naked. And you really don't know what that means unless you feel the shame of being naked. I've seen people, Terry, in public have just small amount of garments on. That's all they had. And unless you put yourself in their position, you're not going to know what it feels like. I've seen people hungry, just like that man, unless you've been so hungry that you feel your own belly growling and there's no way to get relief, you really don't know what it is to move forward and help. Today, I had an opportunity, and I always have to bring life experiences into this. There's no way you can talk about it without bringing life experiences. I had the opportunity to eat lunch today with a widow, and she is 80. I think she's 84. My wife could probably tell you how old she is. She's 84. And I had the privilege, I don't know, some people would say this is a privilege, but I have had a privilege a few months back of conducting this, her husband's part of leaving this walk of life. And it was kind of funny how it happened, because I went to the VA the veterans home to visit him, and we had a little relationship, talking and everything. And I went in, just moved into the room, and was there when he took his last breath and left this walk of life. So I'm thinking, okay, what steps do I take? His wife wasn't there. And so I waited for about an hour, and she finally arrived, and it gave us an opportunity. We sat there for about an hour and a half. It gave me an opportunity to discuss about passing and my views on that and where he is and things of that nature. And so I was asked to do his celebration of life, I'm going to call it that. And So today I had the opportunity to eat lunch with her, and of course I bought her lunch, and we was talking, and usually you don't really realize if people grasp what you're saying, but so I'm bringing this out for a reason, but she brought up at the table where we were eating everything we had discussed there in the room, waiting on the other family members to get there, the doctor to get there, to pronounce the situation and all those things. And that's what it means, visiting the widows and widowers, taking care of them. I'm putting all this in compassion. It's hard to imagine what she's going through. But that's okay. I'm through. I'm just adding these things up. I'm not going to get through all this tonight, Terry. But I'm adding these things up. Some people, I've had them ask me, well, is compassion in the Torah? Is compassion written there? So I've in this paper that I've worked on for a long time, I've got a few things here. One of God's primary attributes is compassion. It's mercy and gracious. That's in Exodus 34:6. And I wrote this down here. So, and I got this from the Chabad. And the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, Lord, Lord. Now, the word Lord here means God himself, the creator, Hashem. Benevolent God, who is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abundant in loving kindness and truth. Pardon me while I just say praise God. So, and humanity was created in the image of God. In fact, God himself created us in his image. That's in, is that one of your, Genesis 1:27. And God created man in his image. In the image of God created he him. I think I didn't know I was going to throw that in, but I think I threw that in right. So if God is compassionate and gracious and slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth, aren't we supposed to, illuminate that as well? Aren't we supposed to be that way as well? I often think slow to anger. What does it mean to be slow to anger? Anybody want to jump in on that? Because sometimes we as people get offended very easily. Nobody's going to say amen. Sometimes we get offended very easily. Look, we're living in a time right now. Politics gets us very offended very easily. I've got many sores on my lip right here where I bit my lip. So religion. Sometimes we want to reveal things to people, and we start revealing it the way we feel it in our heart, and they come back, we get offended very quickly. But in reality, we need to be slow to anger, because if you get offended, now I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Sometimes when we get offended, we get upset and we say things we really don't want to say. We say things we repent over. That didn't cost you a dime. I threw that in. But compassionate is, even though somebody doesn't have the same views you have, compassion means you have to understand that person, what they've been through, what they've been taught through their life, what they've been brought up to through their life. And compassion will cause you to accept that person the way they are and not try to change them to be what you want them to be. I'm going to say amen if nobody else is. Okay. So while the 7 laws, this is another phrase I put down, while the 7 laws are primarily prohibitions, and we discuss the 7 laws of Noah all the time, the prohibition of murder and theft and and things of that nature. They are also about creating a society built on justice, kindness, respect for life, compassion. Whew, undergirds the way we fulfill these laws. So I wrote down just a few examples. I'm sure you can go through and find more. Do not murder. This law implies valuing and protecting human life, which comes from the place of compassion in your heart. Do not steal. Compassion teaches us to respect others' belongings and not to want what isn't ours. Even justice, setting up laws of justice. Judges should temper their judgments with compassion, not just strict legalism. I wished one of you would say something on this. So, all right. So let's talk about compassion in action. I just wrote down two places here, and I'm not going to get up through all this. I wrote down two places here of in the Torah of compassion in action. And we know that Noah showed compassion by caring for the animals during the flood. It's another thing. Compassion is not just about man to man, but also about not being cruel to animals. That's also a connection of compassion. Noah tended to them day and night, even sacrificing his comfort. So let me throw another thing about compassion here before I go on to Abraham. Compassion will cause you to help somebody even though it may seem to be hurting you. Now, let me clarify this. Compassion will cause you to forget about your own needs to help somebody else in their needs. It will cause you to just complete. And in that position of doing that, you will find that there'll be something that happens in your mind and your needs suddenly doesn't seem as important now because you're involved in helping somebody else's needs. We talk about Danielle and in her position. I had a lot of people who know Danielle, and I'm not going to go too much into this because Danielle has told me a couple of weeks ago that she wants to come on here and give her testimony. But I just want to tell you this. A lot of people told me when we first started getting a connection with Danielle, in her position she was in, that we were crazy. You're helping her in vain. It's not going to bring her out of nothing. She's just going to milk you till you're dry. Have you ever heard that from anybody? And it's done the exact, I cried more during Danielle. You can ask my wife. I cried more. I think I called Terry crying. I've called Thomas crying. And I mean, just not knowing why. My wife and I had discussions as we would go out there and talk about it, on our way. And I said, I don't know why. I don't know why this is like this on my heart. I don't know why. But now I understand. And I tell the Creator, if there was any other way, I'd just assume it'd be another way. But I thank the Creator that I got involved. I'm looking at some texts here real quick. Let me see. Am I going to put myself on speaker view? Thank you for asking that, Ronald. No, I thought everybody would want to see your smiling faces. So I just thought I'd leave it there. Thomas said he's listening. Are there people that cannot comprehend compassion? Would it be a choice to not show compassion? Boy, Veronica, that is a great question. I was talking to a rabbi about a year ago, maybe a little longer a year ago, about another positional thing I was in, showing compassion, really desiring to, this was just coming out of me. And, and he said, Veronica, he said, that's a choice. You can shut it off anytime you want to. You can walk away anytime you want to. But because you feel compassion, you can't. There are people who maybe have the desire for compassion, but they choose not to show compassion. And that's part of cultivating it. That's part of once you start allowing compassion, and you have to start small. You can't start on big things. I look back over my life now, Veronica, and I realize a lot of the small things that cultivated or brought up compassion in me. It started with little things, holding the door for people, maybe buying the drink of someone, a Coke behind me, maybe coming up to a charity box. Instead of me putting the dollar in the charity box in the store, I turn around and give it to somebody else, or give it to the people running the cash register. Here, put this in there. You got to cultivate it. But there are people, sadly, Veronica, that would choose not to show compassion. The thing about it is, that's the very people you probably need to show your compassion to. So maybe help push them over the edge, because I guarantee if you start it slow, it will start to build up. It becomes, I think, Overly told me this. I was talking about epigenetics one time, and they began to tell me what, or actually I was talking about something, and they said, you know what that is? That's called epigenetics. And I said, what is that? And so they just told me a little bit of, there's part of a genetic code inside of every one of us. But epigenetics is where you go in and there's actually a remodifying of some codes that goes on inside you. And as you cultivate compassion, it becomes a way of your life. It becomes part of your genetic makeup. You find yourself doing it and not even realizing you're doing it. You just suddenly say, wait a minute, did I do that? It's just something that flows out of you, just like breath out of your mouth, and the sight and the hearing. You start getting aware of everything around you that's going on. You find yourself connected with people you didn't even know was close to you. You just through that cultivating compassion. So anyway, yes, Veronica, sadly, there are people who choose not to show compassion. Did I answer that? Okay, Veronica. I wanted to preach it there a little bit, but I didn't get to. So, anybody got anything to say before I go any further? Anybody got a question or anything they want to talk about? Because go ahead, Terry.
Just as you're talking, it was reminding me some things that I had learned along the way as well. In Psalms 145, it says that, God has compassion over all of his creation.
Yes.
And when you were talking about clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, I'd read not too long ago a level higher than just giving them clothes and giving them food, and taking it into a deeper level of compassion, and also walking more in the way that, you in the image of God, is in showing compassion to the naked, is not just give them clothing, but to find out what clothing they desire or need.
Yeah. So
you fulfill their need just in a personal way with them, finding out, what they desire. Food wise, giving, a poor, hungry person a sandwich, and, somebody might say, well, they should be glad to get what they, they're getting. But to be a compassionate person is, what can I get for you? And let them share from what they need for that, aspect to be fulfilled in their life. And And so we might question that, but is that not what the Creator does for us in His compassion? He knows us, and he fulfills His compassion toward us and taking care of what we need based upon our own, character, our personal life, whatever it is. He just doesn't throw something at you and say, "Oh, here's some clothes, here's some food."
Right.
How many times somebody might bring you something, and that you've been praying to the Creator for something, and somebody brings that exact thing.
Yeah.
You were praying, "I need some soup, I want some soup," but somebody didn't show up with a loaf of bread. Somebody showed up with soup because the Creator knew how to show the right compassion. He took it to the next level. He brought what you were praying and asking and desiring. So that's just something I read a while back ago that I thought was really good. So it's never left me when I'm thinking about that. Now when I hear people say what you just said, I got to figure out a way that if I come across something like that, how I can do it that way to be able to make it a more personal thing for them to fulfill their desire. Maybe for clothing, someone would like to have a pair of blue jeans, not just any, pair of slacks. I've not had blue jeans. Can I have some blue jeans? And you get them the blue jeans.
Yep.
And then you've not only fulfilled the need of fulfilling the naked, you fulfilled the nakedness that was within the person's emotions and soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just want to throw that in.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Thomas, I want you to get ready because I want you to talk here in a minute. Yeah, you, Thomas.
Yeah,
I have watched with somebody go. Oh, I've watched Thomas get compassionate where he lives right now. I've watched him. He may not know I see it, but I see it. The other day I went. No, I'm not going to say it right now, Thomas. I'm going to let you. I'm going to bring it up when I ask you to say something. But I want to bring in Abraham before we get too far carried away here. And I know this is Terry's favorite because when I first heard you say this, Terry, I wrote it in my I call it a little book in my thing of compassion. I try to read it a lot, different things I've got in compassion. Abraham was known for his compassion through, what's that word? Chesed. Acts of kindness. He would welcome guests. He was always like praying for others when probably some of them he didn't even know. Well, he knew his Lot was down there, but he, others he didn't know if it was down there or not, and he still intrigued God over that. So, so let me give a couple more things here, and then I'm going to ask Thomas to say something because Thomas is a great example of someone who. Well, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not going to talk for him. I'm going to let him. Is that okay, Thomas? Can you talk here in a minute? Okay. Okay. See, there he is. Yeah, I'll try. So how do we cultivate this? How do we? So cultivating compassion starts with noticing your surroundings. Look around you. See who is struggling, hurting, or in need. Now, this is not something that's going to happen all at once to notice things like that. Not everybody you see, some people's got real good at hiding their feelings. Not everybody you see, you're going to see their hurt or their pain. But what happens is when you start conversations with them people, when you start just casual discussions, before you know it, what they're going through is going to come out. I'm going to tell you this cute little story. Now, this happened 30 years, 40 years ago. I almost told my age, but I'm not going to. Bob, I'm not going to tell my age. I worked in Knoxville and we lived in Townsend, which the drive alone, driving in an automobile, it was like an hour and 30 minutes to drive from where we lived in Townsend, nestled in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains, and worked in Knoxville, downtown Knoxville. My car tore up one night. I was going home. My car tore up, and I was like, man, I'm going to have to walk home. Everybody in the shop was already gone where I worked at. I'm going to have to walk home. So I started walking. This guy picked me up, and he said, where are you going? Where are you heading? That's back when you can pick people up, and be okay about it. And I said, well, I'm going to towns. And he said, well, I'm not going that far, but I can take you as far as Maryville. I'm going to Maryville, and I'm going a different way. I can take you as far as Maryville. Maryville was not quite the halfway point, but it was pretty close. I said, sure, thank you so much. So as we was going, I asked him how his day's been, blah, 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 casual conversation. Before you know it, he started talking. Only thing I could get in was, yep, That's all I could get out. He was talking, man. He was just pouring it out. When we got to Maryville, and I knew where he had to turn right at, and I needed to go left, he said, you know what? I'm going to take you a little bit further. And I'll just take you a little bit further. I got a little time. Make a long story short, he talked the whole way. He took me to the doorstep, and he talked the whole way. And all I said was, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. But I guess it was the way I was saying, yeah, yeah. He took me to the doorstep, and as I got out of the car, he said, you know what? This has been one of the most intriguing conversations I've ever had with anybody. Well, I didn't say nothing. He was doing all the talking. And while he was talking, he was actually coming to clarity about some things he needed to do in his life. It just took somebody listening. That's a part of compassion. Listening to somebody. Let them bare their heart and their soul. I didn't give no advice. I didn't say, well, this is what I would do. I just said, yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. So let me give you just a couple points here. So compassion starts with noticing, look around, seeing the struggles, the hurting, the need of people around you. When people speak, here it is, listen with full attention instead of thinking about your response. Don't think about how to answer them. Truly hear someone's need in what they're talking about. Don't think about, well, what am I going to say back? Should I intrigue in this conversation? No, just sometimes it might take you saying, how are you really doing? Is there something I can do to help? Show genuine interest in others' well-being. I'm going to stop right there. I've got a whole bunch more in this, and we may pick up here in a future time. But I want to give Thomas, I have watched Thomas change over the years. When I first met Thomas, and I'm going to let him tell you, I think I'm going to let him tell you how that happens. I don't know if I should let him tell you how that, but when Thomas first got down here, he had his first birthday, and we took him to a local eatery. And Thomas hated to be in crowds. Thomas just couldn't stand a crowd. He couldn't stand people. Now I see people hugging him. I see him hugging people all the time. Anyway, Thomas couldn't. And so there was this waitress there that we knew, and we asked for her every time we went to this, eatery. And I told her it was Thomas's birthday. And guess what they do at this eatery? All the people come, all the waiters and waitresses come together and say, happy birthday. So here's Thomas looking at me. He's right straight across from me. And I knew he would love to just punch me right in the face right now. So after they got through singing, they brought him a cake. And that lady, that waitress, gave him a big old kiss on the cheek. And I saw Thomas melt. He don't know I saw it, but he got up and went outside. But did he come back in? I guess he had to get a breath of fresh air. I don't know, but I saw him melt. So, okay, Thomas, I want you to talk to people a few minutes, however long you want to do it, about your I'm going to call it Journey to Compassion because I've seen you, Thomas. I've seen you. Go ahead, Thomas.
Well, a big part of that is because of what you've taught me. He's right. I didn't care for people much. I don't care, and I still don't care for big crowds. But I always did everything on my own through my life. I've been humbled a lot since I've been here, and I've learned to accept help, uh, or compassion, uh, and I've learned how to give it more. I always did, but I never really thought about it, and not just like now. Our fire alarm went off here, and they're pounding on my door. Well, Miss Seeley came off the uh, elevator there, and I said, "Wait just a minute." I ran back here and put down there that I had the, fire alarm. But I turned up my speakers and I opened up my bedroom window, and we're standing outside so I could hear you guys still. And she's asking me, "Well, what is that?" And I said, "It's a class. You should check it out." She goes, "Oh, yeah, that's right." She goes, "You don't believe in the New Testament." I said, "No." She goes, "You think it's a joke." I said, "No, I just think it's fiction." And she said, "Well," she said, "Oh, Scotty," she said, "you had a nice voice."
Oh,
And I said, "Well, I said, I'm not really the person to ask." I said, "But yeah, I noticed myself talking to people more, giving hugs, like he said. There's a few people that I I guess I kind of look out for. And it's the right thing to do. It's what we should be doing. And I don't know if this is I don't know the word. Uh it makes me feel good. I don't know if that's wrong or not, or
good.
but it's nice to see people smile. I didn't smile most of my life. Um but the last 4 years, yeah, 4 years, just a little over 4 years now I've been here. Been part of the best part of my life, actually. I mean, look, I met all you wonderful people. I might not have seen you all by face or in person. Uh, there's 4 people here I know in person. Annie, Veronica, Terry, Scotty. And uh, okay, dang you, Scotty. um, it wouldn't have it might have happened, but you know, Scotty and Terry and all y'all, you've all taught me more than you know. And because you put me on the spot, Scotty, I got something for you. Mana. Dun, dun. But yeah, I do give hugs. I do, and I never realized hugs felt so good, to be quite honest. And even to hear the words "I love you." And my family never really used that term. And I mean, these last 4 years, I've gotten more hugs and been told I love you more than my whole life. But it's nice when you help somebody, and not because you're told to or anything like that, just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see them smile. That just makes my whole day right there. I don't care what it is. Just like Miss Seeley here, when I helped her walk out and she thanked me and she smiled. That was awesome. I don't know what else to say.
Well, that's a mouthful. We love you, Thomas.
I love you all too.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring my part to a close. I could talk more. I could talk hours more, but I want to ask if you all have anything. If you all been through a journey of, you know,
Manamana.
yeah, have you been to a position of learning? Part of learning compassion is not being so judgmental on other people. In any faith, here I go. I was going to hush, but I'm going to say this. In any faith, there are going to be people who always see things different. There's always going to be people that's ritualistic, that are more into things as what they think is spiritual is by the motions. I remember talking to one of my mentors when I was growing up. This pastor, we were talking one time, in a lot of religions, it's all about singing and worship until you get connected to the Creator. Well, now I sing and worship because I am connected to the Creator. I got this joy, so there's a difference. It doesn't take the song to get me connected. The song comes out because I am connected. It doesn't take me. I'm not Jewish. I'm going to have to say this, Terry, because I was going to say it earlier, but I'm going to say it. I'm not Jewish, and there are things that the Jewish people do that are meant for them to do, and I'm glad that it doesn't take. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm full of joy because it doesn't take those things for me to feel like I'm connected. It takes a smile to somebody, telling somebody how you doing. I remember the first time I met Veronica. Here we're in this great crowd of people. I stuck my hand out to shake her hand. She said, "Oh, come here, you." And she just grabbed me and give me a hug. Yeah. So, Veronica, you got anything to say? You got anything to add?
Not really. I thought that I'm teaching a little, well, not teaching, I'm reading on videos to my group about Musar and the gates of whatever, the different traits. And I was surprised that compassion was not on there, but I think that it's within each gate, like love and mercy and, and stuff like that. So compassion is not necessarily a trait per se, but it comes out of all the other good traits. But it makes, and I think one of the things, I'm going to probably start crying here, but one of the things that that really made an impact is when you said that you have to listen to people when they talk, because they don't always say what's on their mind or what they're feeling. You have to listen really carefully, or or ask them different questions and stuff, because people do not expose themselves, in the sense of what they're feeling. So yeah, that's all. It's all part of compassion, and I'm so glad that you are teaching this, of how important it is. And thank you, Thomas, for your words too.
That's something we was talking about before, everybody. So that's all right. Does anybody, Ronald?
Yeah, it's more often what they don't say, as opposed to what they do say.
It's so true, Ronald. It's so true. You got to learn to be. You got to pick up on those things. Go ahead, Ronald. Was you through?
That's all.
Okay. Thomas, you got something else in there?
Usually I don't like to say a lot in front of people, except for when we're joking before class and everything, because how do you put it? I need to learn. Well, I have learned. Yes. But what really hit me that time was when Fred said that he noticed I smiled more. I didn't know I didn't smile that much. That's That was a kicker right there. I just want to say that.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. Go ahead, Ronald.
Yeah, I just thought of something, a short story I heard the other day on a rabbi's lesson. This man came to the rabbi just before Pesach, Passover for those who don't know what Pesach is, and he asked him if it was all right to serve milk instead of wine in the 4 cups. Well, the rabbi gave the guy a lot of money, and the guy went on his way, and the rabbinate turned around and said to him, "Why'd you give him so much money?" And he said, "Well, the man was asking if he could serve milk." He says, "Well, that told me that he didn't have enough money to have a proper Pesach meal with his family. So I gave him the money so he could."
Yes, that great story. Great story. All right. Does somebody else have anything they want to add? Anuela, Terry, Bob, Will? Go ahead, Bob.
Well, just we're using the different Hebrew terms, and the way it's been explained to me is that chesed is oftentimes called loving kindness, but basically it's just giving without limit. It's giving without limit, and you wind up giving just abundantly to the extent that it can actually harm people. In the Bible, for a man to be to lay with his sister is forbidden, and then the Bible says that it's chesed. So that would be a case where loving kindness is actually damaging. Then the next stage is tzedakah, which is an exact amount. I am supposed to give that person $1, therefore I give that person $1. I'm not going to give them $2 because I'm only supposed to give them $1. And that can have the damage of becoming judgmental. I'm measuring everything. But the next stage is Rahmanis, and that's an honest desire to help the other person, to benefit that other person in the way that they need to be benefited. Like a mother, just she's not going to give the child everything, and she's not going to give the child exact the amount. She's going to do whatever's best for that child. And that's the way we're to treat other people is with that Rahmanis, which is what you were saying at the beginning there. So yeah, it's a really good lesson. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Bob, for putting that in. That's a great. I'm going to write that down as soon as we get off here. I'm going to write that down, Bob. Thank you. So, yeah, that's great. Anybody else?
Can I end it on a lighter note?
Yeah.
Everybody's got me go back here to cry. Listening to everything. And it messes with my glasses and my ear. On a lighter note, about 4 years ago, we moved down. We've been wanting to move into the Chattanooga area for years. We've been 30 years working our way here. It's a story I'll share some other time, but it's ever since my wife and I first got married, we've been trying to get to here. And it's taken almost 30 years. About 4 years ago, we finally moved down. We live in what's called the Saudi Daisy area here of Chattanooga. It's a little community outside of the city, and it's known as and has been known since probably the 30s because it's what's interesting. Family was coal mountain towns, and because there's evidently coal that was in the mountains around here. Anyhow, it's considered the redneck area. So a lot of your city folk kind of make fun of the way some of the Saudi people do things and talk and things like that. So we moved here, and we hadn't been here long, and I was going somewhere, and I ran out of gas, and I was going down the road, and I had my gas can in my hand. I'm going in this good old boy in his big old Chevy truck, high enough you could walk under, pulls up and asked me if I needed some help. And I said, yeah, I ran out of gas. I'm headed up to the store up here. And he said, well, I'll go with you. I said, well, that's great. And I went to go get in the truck, and he pulls over and he parked. He says, I'll walk with you so you have company. I mean, good old boy compassion there. He was going to walk with me and give me some company. Guys, that really didn't happen, but there's a guy, and I can say older because he's the same age as my dad. And he missed his calling in life, and he would tell stories, and you would be sitting there in awe, and then you find out you've been had.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first ones he told me when I moved down here. But he goes, I got to tell you about the Saudi people, And I've been waiting to share that because I always thought that was pretty cool. But these kind of people, yeah, there's a guy might pull his truck over and walk with you to the gas station. But I'll be honest with you, we have really enjoyed living here because a lot of them just are country kind of minded folks, and you find a lot of that compassion in areas like this. I'm not saying they're in the cities, but and I'm talking about your overall wearing cowboy hat turned around backwards, 4-wheel driving guys. Everybody we've met here, in the stores where we do businesses at. We go to this little old Mexican restaurant down the road here, been going there, and we've met people over the time. Well, here back during the end of summer, a bunch of us start sitting at the tables together. Now, when we come in, there's about 15 of us that are just gathered around. And sometimes we're going during the middle of the week just to sit and talk with each other. And it's been really a cool thing. One of the first times we did, I took a picture and I posted it, and I said, teens of the 70s and 80s hanging out. Because that's who it is. We're the teens of the 70s and 80s, sitting and sharing stories, But a lot of times you'll find, like you said, there's a lot of people that share compassion that's out there, and things we can. And I love what Veronica said, and you said about listening to people, and then here Ronald pulls up and gives us the best example. With the rabbi hearing that man, asking the question, is it okay to use milk? And it's a very serious question for guys that don't understand Passover, because those cups are holy. They're holy, separated things. Are not supposed to have anything other than kosher wine in. But this guy was poor, but he still wanted to try to do what was required of him. But the rabbi heard his pain in the question. And that I thank you, Ronna, for sharing that. Kind of sometimes we need to hear, and I'm saying this to myself, hear their pain in their questions, in their statements. They may not be telling us their pain, but they are. We just have to learn. I have to learn to listen, because that's a big thing I've got to do. I've got to learn to listen to that depthness. So, Scotty, you did an amazing job. I'm going to say this is part 1.
Okay.
Because I know you've got a lot more in you. At another time, we'll come back for a part 2.
Okay. All right. Well, timed out about an hour, a little over an hour. Find somebody to hang around that's compassionate. And my grandmother always had this saying, birds of a feather flock together. There's power in numbers. So, all right. Terry, how about you doing the final close tonight? And we'll come to an ending. It's Amuela. It's so good to see you tonight, honey.
Yes. Thank you for staying up to see us.
Yeah, I see your tea parties when you post them, and I see your little animals and friends, and I think you've got some new ones. You'll have to show some of them here one time. Just show all your little friends. So, all right, Terry, how about
guys,
bringing us to a close?
Thank y'all for joining us tonight for a very, very, very good lesson on cultivating compassion, talking about compassion, discussing it. If you have compassionate stories yourself that you would like maybe Scotty to share a little bit of in the next time, send him an email, Outreach Noah. Did I say right? Yeah. outreachnoah@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I got so many things that goes on in my head. And if you've got something that maybe you an example or a personal life experience that either you've been a part of or experienced from someone else's compassion and how it changed your lives, drop us an email on that. And if you'd like Scotty to share it, you don't have to share no names. You can just do initials or whatever. Don't even have to do that. Give him some material for part 2 when we come to it here, sometime here in probably the near future, and share with us. We don't always have to be the ones that are telling our stories. We'd like to hear yours, because whatever you have to say, the experience you've had in giving or receiving of compassion will be a blessing for someone else. That someone that may be going in that same situation that you were in at one time, and you may never know it, and they may be on the other side of the world. That's the blessing of these kind of classes. We're worldwide, and you may touch someone in Singapore. You never know.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for joining us tonight. Look forward to seeing y'all next week. Come and join us. We'll have the YouTube video will be there to watch at any time, but I'll have it edited with titles and stuff here in a little bit. But like and share and subscribe to Outreach Noah. Share it with your friends. We're just down to earth here. No big fancy stuff. And if that fits your kitchen table, you're welcome to come and join us, if you want to put it that way. But thank you for showing up tonight and listening and watching to us. And the Georgia group, thank you. If the Florida group is down there, thank you. And anywhere else, I know we've got some people in Brazil that slips in and watches sometimes. And I think, what is it, Germany or somewhere? There's somewhere over in Europe that we've heard from people over in there. And thank y'all for listening and joining in as well. Go and share compassion this week. Go and share about it. Pray about it. Look up the passage in Psalms 145 where God talks about having compassion over all of his creatures, and meditate on that sometime this week, and maybe even pray about that particular passage. And the one Scotty gave, Exodus 34:6, which talks about God's characteristics, because we are to emulate the Creator in those areas. So we'll see y'all next week, God willing.
Bye-bye.